Syrian government is taking credit for pushing out ISIL from the northeastern city of Hasaki, but they didn't win this fight alone. The Syrian Kurdish fighting force, the YPG, joined the battle with the help of US-led coalition airstrikes. For years, the YPG and the government controlled separate zones in Hasaki. It was part of an understanding to prevent the city from becoming yet another battleground. The YPG said cooperation was logical under the circumstances, but that only fueled accusations from Turkey and Syrian opposition groups that the Kurds are allied to the government. Now, an official from the YPG's political party, the PYD, told us that the threat of terrorism means it would partner with any group, including the Syrian government, if it's committed to a democratic Syria.
Anyone who are ready to work for democracy, who accepts the diversity within Syrian people, of course we are ready to coordinate with them. And now, as I mentioned, I maybe told you some examples with the opposition and also with the Syrian with the regime.
The Kurds may be a minority in Syria, but they have become powerful players in the conflict. Territorial gains over recent years allowed them to enjoy political autonomy in the Kurdish heartland in the northeast. The Kurds have a long history of struggle with the Syrian government. Many of them were not given citizenship, and their culture and language were suppressed. In 2004, they rose up against the state, but their protests were violently quelled. When the Syrian uprising began in 2011, they didn't fully join efforts to overthrow the government. Instead, they managed to expand into areas where the regime retreated. Government forces were withdrawn from mainly Kurdish-populated areas, leaving the Kurds to fill the vacuum.
For the regime, it was important because they didn't want to fight on several fronts. And what their main calculation probably was is that if the Kurds would capture those areas, that it would lead to tensions between Turkey and the Kurds.
The Kurds haven't just created their own autonomous region in Syria. They are now in a position to change the balance of power on the ground. The main Syrian Kurdish force is now publicly floating the idea of partnering with the government. Sana Khuder, Al Jazeera, Southern Turkey.